Alright guys, I'm back with another video rounding up the colonial history of America. So we had previously talked about the southern colonies, mainly Virginia, the Chesapeake, Jamestown. We had previously also talked about New England, mainly Massachusetts Bay and a little Rhode Island thrown in there. So now we're talking about the Middle Colonies, and honestly guys, the Middle Colonies is probably where I would hang out during the colonial era. No joke. I'd probably be chilling in Pennsylvania. Second choice would probably be Rhode Island. But alright, let's go ahead and see what's different about the Middle Colonies today and go from there. As we're going through, I'm going to throw in some Southern and New England stuff for you guys to compare and contrast. So let's go ahead and have at it. Now, just like with the Southern colonies and New England, AP just cares about certain colonies in this region. Sometimes they'll mention some New York, but mostly it's gonna be Pennsylvania. So let's go ahead and see what makes the Middle Colonies, the Middle Colonies, and why they don't fit in with the Southern colonies or New England. So I kind of think they're the best of both worlds when you think about it. Economically, they take a little from what New England does to make money, and they take a little bit of what the Southern colonies do to make money. And here's what I mean. So New England makes some money off of like shipbuilding and lumber and like trade and stuff like that. Same with the Middle Colonies. In certain areas like, upstate New York, areas of Pennsylvania, we've got huge forests that are going to provide like that lumber for that shipbuilding industry and other, construction industries as well. Also, the Middle Colonies is known as our breadbasket. So this is where they borrow a little bit from the Southern colonies because they too dive into agriculture. So really what we see here is the Middle Colonies are also going to establish huge estates. But unlike the Southern colonies, okay, for one, they don't deal in cash crops. They deal in food. So breadbasket, grain, okay? That kind of stuff. They feed the colonies. Now, the other thing, with their large estates, they're not going to run them like plantations, meaning that they're not really going to rely too much on slave labor. There is slavery in the Middle Colonies, however, they're going to lean more towards indentured servitude and towards free labor working on the farms that produce, well, grain, right? And other food stuff. So there are also cottage industries in the Middle Colonies and small-scale manufacturing. So we're talking iron, glass, pottery products, and we're also talking cottage industries like weaving, shoemaking, cabinet making, other artsy crafty stuff. So this is what we kind of see. Plus, there's livestock production here. Like we said, they feed the colonies. And the busy shipping ports that we have in areas, especially like New York, are going to really thrive with trade. So speaking of New York, it wasn't always called New York. Actually, it was owned by the Dutch before, and it was called New Netherland. This area, which encompasses, modern-day New York, New Jersey, and a sliver of Delaware, was actually owned by the Dutch. And here's the thing, very few Dutch people wanted to, settle in the New World, so the Dutch are the Dutch West India Company is like, hey, doors open, guys. And so French immigrants, German immigrants, Eastern Europeans settled this area. So it's extremely diverse already. We're talking Protestants, Catholics, Jews, but it also had a large slave population. So we're talking 20% of the population in New Netherlands are African slaves. So New York has always kind of been a melting pot when you think about it that way. So why don't the Dutch still retain New York in most of colonial history? Well, here's why. The British march on in. Literally, they march on in. So, it's kind of in the way when you think about it, because New England is separated from the Southern colonies because New Netherlands right in the freaking middle. So, the British got, like, this on the priority, pretty much. They want to take over. So there's no there's no continuity problems with their colonies. Everything's connected, right? If they take over New Netherland. So King Charles II's gonna be like, hey, Duke of York, you got my permission, buddy, to go ahead and march on through and just, take the place. So here's the thing. So this guy right here, dude, my Dutch is pretty bad. But anyways, his name is Peter Stuyvesant. Yeah. He is the governor of New Netherland at the time, and he tells the people of New Netherland, hey, let's go ahead and fight off the British. Let's raise up, have this massive call to arms. Here's the problem. Nobody likes the guy. So, yeah, this guy's like, yeah, let's fight him off. And people in New Netherland are like, whatever. So, the Duke of York marches on through and claims the area without firing a shot. So he renames it after himself, right? New York. And then the other half, he's going to call New Jersey. So, remember how I said a little sliver of Delaware was part of New Netherland? Well, that little sliver of Delaware is actually going to be bought up by this guy, William Penn. So, doesn't he look familiar? I mean, have we seen him on food? Oh, that's right. Quaker Oats. Well, here's the thing about it. William Penn is, his family's pretty freaking rich, not gonna lie. And his dad had helped King Charles II, like, reclaim the throne and stuff, and so he owed him, like, a whole bunch of money. So King Charles II's gonna be like, hey, here's a bunch of land in the New World, you want it? So William Penn's dad doesn't sell the area, but William Penn does. And he's like, yeah, Quakers be persecuted up in here, so we're gonna, like, head on down and start our own colony in the New World. So here we go. Pennsylvania, otherwise known as Penn's Woods, is gonna be the place for Quakers. And that little bitty sliver, Delaware, is going to be bought up by William Penn, so that now the two places, Delaware, Pennsylvania, Quakers. Alright? So, if I had to describe the Quakers in, like, one fell swoop to you guys, I would say they're like the hippies of the colonies. Like, for real. Look at what they believe in. Alright? They believe the light of God is in everybody. And each person can have a direct, personal relationship with God. You don't need a priest or minister. Dude, they're like one with God, man. So, another thing. These guys believe in equality for all human beings. Like, what? Dude, the Puritans could listen to these guys. Like, for real. So, because they believe in equality of all human beings, I mean, they're gonna, like, practice stuff like freedom of religion. I mean, they're going to allow women to become educated. I mean, these guys are, like, totally advanced for the time. So, they're also going to live a simple life. I mean, they're not gonna, like, be freaking, like, frilly or extravagant with their worship or their way of living. They're just gonna be simple folk, man. Plus, they're pacifists. They don't agree with fighting. I mean, it's just not them, right? So, they're ultimately on the side of peace. And with that brings social justice. They also believe in fairness and, those kind of principles. So they too share a sense of responsibility for the life of the communities and the integrity of creation. So yeah, early hippies. So William Penn is going to establish his great city of Philadelphia, which, when it translates to the city of brotherly love. So, this is going to be William Penn's holy experiment. You guys see here in this picture how there's equal parcels of land? Well, this is what he does. He doesn't want any one person to be considered, aristocratic in Philadelphia. So he's going to give male settlers equal parcels of 50 acres of land to ensure that they have voting rights in the colony. How cool is that? You like straight up show up Pennsylvania to Philadelphia. Here we go. 50 acres of land. Have a nice day. Now you can vote. I mean, who wouldn't want to go to Pennsylvania at this point? So, this representative assembly that they start up, these guys are going to guarantee freedom of religion. Again, this is why I choose Pennsylvania or Rhode Island. I mean, for real. You want some tolerance? You go to those two places. So, William Penn is going to strike on beyond Pennsylvania, well, beyond Philadelphia. So, there's going to be the creation of these green country towns. And it's going to, like, highlight nature and beauty. And just, like, dude, like I said, these guys are really hippies. So, let's say you can't find a job. William Penn's going to be like, here's some employment opportunities. I mean, public education? Yeah, it's a thing. Even for women in the Middle Colonies. Pennsylvania. So, death penalty, we don't know her. We're going to focus on rehabilitation rather than punishment when it comes to our correctional system. And if you are charged with a crime, we're not going to charge you an arm and a leg for your bail. It's going to be reasonable bail. Like I said, guys, these guys are ahead of their times. So, how do you guys figure they're going to treat Native Americans if they're treating everybody else like pretty awesome? Well, here's how. These guys are going to be fair with the Native Americans. For the 70 years that the Quakers are in control of the area, these guys live in peace and harmony with the Native Americans. Dude, the Delaware tribe they're going to strike a friendship with, like I said, for a good 70 years, okay? After that, it's all hell breaks loose. But for 70 years, stuff is good. Even when they have a dispute, they're going to take it to court. Because remember, Quakers don't believe in violence. So they're not going to go all Puritan on Native Americans or Pilgrim on Native Americans. Yeah, we're looking at you, King Philip's War. But anyways, these guys are friendly. Part of me thinks there's some sort of a catch, right? Like, this place can't be like the perfect place, but so far I haven't been able to find anything. So if you find something, guys, put it in the comments. Okay. So that's my little spiel on Middle Colonies. Now, I said that I would come swoop around and also mention other history that we didn't like catch before that's still kind of considered colonial. So let's go ahead and talk rebellion, because there were some rebellions back in colonial times. One rebellion in particular is the Stono Rebellion. So this is an uprising amongst African Americans in South Carolina. It's a slave rebellion, right? So this happens in 1739, and these slaves gather some weapons. They kill a few white people on the way and they try to escape to Spanish Florida. Does it work? No. This uprising is going to be squashed, and the people involved are going to be executed. But this does serve as a warning to southern colonies about the potential of slave uprisings. And now they're going to be triggered. They're going to be paranoid. They're going to crack down harsher laws and restrictions on slavery. They're going to pass these things. So whatever slave uprising that we see continuing in the future, slavery restrictions get tighter and tighter. It's very reactionary. So, a couple of things we forgot to mention with our exploration unit, but since we're talking about revolts, I wanted to throw it in here. So, let's talk about the Pueblo Revolt. To understand this a little bit, we need to get some historical context about the Encomienda system. So, just reviewing that a little bit with you guys. Remember, the Spanish were charged with taking care of the native populations because the Spanish crown gave them land, and that was the stipulation, right? Did that really happen? No. The Spanish treated the native populations terribly, forced them into slavery. they were dying off massively because of the harsh work and, well, disease, right? They hadn't overcome disease. So later on, there's going to be like more slave labor coming in. But anyways, in Santa Fe, New Mexico, around this time, in 1680, there's going to be an uprising by the native populations. Pope is going to lead the charge on that one. And this uprising is successful. They're able to throw out the Spanish for 50 years in that colony. That's one instance of a successful uprising by Native Americans. So let's shift gears a little bit. I know this is going to be a weird shift, but like I said, this is our catch-all section. So let's go ahead and break down some talk about women. Now, let's summarize things for you guys. Okay, if we had to pick right now, which place do you guys think women would have most rights? At first when I thought about this, I was like, man, people would be picking the Middle Colonies because, I mean, hello, Pennsylvania, right? But in all honesty, guys, this one like had surprised the hell out of me. Because really, when I was first learning about this stuff, I was like, what? Yeah, I took a women's studies class. Well, several actually. I probably could have minored in women's studies, even graduate courses. So anyways, here's the deal. Women actually had the most rights in New England. Yeah. And this one shocked the hell out of me too. Okay, but let's go with this. Let's see why. So, remember, religion was a huge freaking thing in New England, alright? So huge, it was like a part of their life. I mean, yeah, it was the major part of their life, right? And they're always striving for this perfection. So, women in New England will be educated by default because, hey, you got to read that Bible to worship, right? So that's one thing. Women are educated. Two, and this is what drives them above the rest, is that women, single women and widowed women, have the right to own property and a business. Or well, one or the other or both. So, women didn't have this right in the Middle Colonies. Even though women were also educated too in Pennsylvania, that wasn't necessarily the case throughout the Middle Colonies. Also, they lived like a traditional lifestyle. In all three places, I mean, it's going to be pretty traditional. You know, the handling of the chores and whatnot. The Southern Colonies, though, okay, women are less in population in these areas. I mean, women are kind of few. Yeah, so you want yourself a sugar daddy, you go Southern Colonies. Anyways, if that's your priority, you go there. But you're going to be in the most restrictive society for you. Now here's why. Women are considered second-class citizens there. I mean, that's similar everywhere, right? But we take it a step above. Education's not really a priority in the Southern Colonies. I mean, there's not really much of an emphasis of religion as there are in, well, the Middle Colonies with Quakerism, right? In Pennsylvania, or New England with Puritanism. So, women in the Southern Colonies will not be educated, and they also don't have the right to vote, which is pretty universal throughout the colonies, right? And they don't have the right to own property like those New England women could, potentially. They can't preach in church. Here's another thing. The Quakers in the Middle Colonies let women preach. So, you see like the hierarchy here? It's like New England up above, like number one. Middle Colonies, well, in the middle. And the Southern Colonies way at the bottom. So, even though there was probably more likelihood of you being an upper class person in the Southern Colonies, let's face it, I mean, Georgia women, yeah, it could happen. You were still expected to be submissive to your husband. And there we go. That's kind of like the treatment of women in colonial history, just in a nutshell, you know, overview. All right, there's more details with this, but like I said, we're doing in a nutshell right here. So let's shift over to another colonial topic, which I know, guys, we're jumping around a lot, but bear with me, all right? Another colonial topic will be mercantilism. So, mercantilism, I mean, this is something that European nations practiced, right? In the 17th and 18th century. So we're talking 1600s, 1700s. So we believe that there is a limited amount of like wealth in the world, right? I mean, it's basically finite. So your goal is to get the most gold and silver and like just cash in general. Okay? That's your colonial goal. So that's the goal of Great Britain, it's the goal of France, it's the goal of Spain, Portugal, you name it. So how you accumulate more wealth is by getting more territory. Makes sense, right? I mean, you're going to exploit the natural resources of the area. Great Britain doesn't really have that big of a landmass, so I mean, it makes perfect freaking sense for them wanting more territory so that they can exploit it for their resources. And since Great Britain is a largely manufacturing society by the time the 1700s roll around, you know, they're going to need those raw materials to turn into finished products. So, these people in Great Britain are going to take these raw materials from the colonies and ship them on back as finished goods. So, in essence, the colonies are there to serve the purpose of making the mother country rich and powerful. So, is this an equal partnership? Hell to no. I mean, Great Britain's taking advantage of the colonies, for sure. But, you know, this is a system that kind of goes on. People are, like, totally buying into this thing. But some colonists, especially people in Massachusetts, looking at you guys, you rebel rousers, even though you like conformity and hate when people go against your stuff, you sure like to rebel. So, there's going to be some, some angry people in Massachusetts. But anyways, so, summarizing once again, alright, the colonies are going to provide things for the mother country. In essence, they're going to provide a merchant fleet. Okay? They're going to provide the raw materials. They're going to provide the market for the manufactured goods. So, here's what we got in map form, pretty much. In case you guys are more visual, right? We got raw materials coming from 13 colonies. Great Britain gets them, sends them right on back as finished factory products. And also something that supports mercantilism is going to be items that are acquired amongst the triangular trade. Because you see, like, we're going to be shipping out the rum. We're going to be shipping out timber products and food. We're also going to be shipping out tobacco, fish, lumber, cotton, textiles, etc. To Great Britain. So, and they are going to send back those manufactured goods. I mean, yeah, that's pretty much how it rolls. So, nobody's really enforcing mercantilism early on, but when King Charles II rolls around, he's going to put up the Navigation Acts. So, basically, this is going to help to try to stop smuggling, but colonists be crafty, and they're going to find a way around this, alright? So, here are the restrictions of the Navigation Acts. Okay, restriction number 1. All goods traded to and from the colonies had to be shipped in either colonial or British ships. Alright? Restriction number 2. All crews of these ships had to be at least 75% British or colonial. Restriction number 3. Certain products, basically the main money makers, tobacco, rice, sugar, molasses, furs, could only be sold from the colonies of Great Britain. They couldn't make any side deals with Spain or France or whoever. Had to be directly to the mother country. And goods traded from the colonies and Europe had to be unloaded at only British ports. So you see, they're essentially trying to crack the whip on the colonies. Make them obey. But, like I said, Massachusetts is going to get into the smuggling game, especially in Boston. So, this is how they try to go around the Navigation Acts. They try it in a sneaky way at first. I mean, they're going to claim, hey, Joint Stock Company founded us. We don't need to obey parliamentary laws. So King Charles II is going to be like, okay, Massachusetts Bay Colony Charter revoked. We're going to make it a royal colony now. You're just going to be Massachusetts. So that was one workaround. But these guys are still very crafty. These guys are going to bribe officials. They're going to, do some sneaky things to get around this. So pretty much the British hierarchy is going to kind of look the other way with this. Colonists are expected to send the raw materials to Britain and expected to purchase these goods, but I mean, when they find out that Spain is offering a better deal or France is offering a better deal, they're going to slip on by and try to do some negotiating with Spain, France, and Holland, even though it's illegal. But you know what? The flaw lies in the governmental structure we got here. Because remember, the British Crown's the ultimate authority, right? But the royal governors carry out this. So here's a flaw right here. The Colonial Assembly has the authority to withhold the governor's salary. That's flaw number one. I mean, it's kind of like if students had the right to withhold teacher salaries. Really now? Would stuff get done? Probably not. Same thing here. Not only are they bribing officials, but they're always dangling that carrot above the governor's head. But the governor's got something to check that with, though, because the governor could also, dissolve the assembly. So rather, there's going to have to be like some sort of negotiating to where things work out for both. That's why I'm talking the backside, like the backdoor deals and, the bribes and such. So when the colonies were not following the Navigation Acts, well, Great Britain's just a bad parent. They look the other way. They're going to just, look the other way and not even bother with it. Because really, to Great Britain, they're like, well, we're getting the raw materials. They're buying some stuff from us. Cool. So, in reality, man, salutary neglect is going to be part of the big undoing of the British authority in the colonies. But for now, salutary neglect kinda works in a weird way. And it's because people here in the colonies were super loyal to Great Britain. They're like, we're British subjects, But also, the colonies can't get their crap together. They lack communication, plus they're going to have differences amongst the colonies. Remember, New England and Southern colonies, exact opposites. They don't really see eye to eye and stuff also. They don't really give a crap about some of this stuff. New England does because the Navigation Act affects their shipping and trade. Southern colonies, who cares, man? They're like, oh, we're supplying the mother country with our cotton and stuff, tobacco. Who cares? That's how they kind of see it. But, there's gonna be a challenge to authority coming soon. And the weird thing is, the challenge to authority is gonna come from church. Like, what? Okay, let's get some historical context on this. Now, something I didn't mention about the Puritans before is they believe in Calvinism, which kind of explains like the crazy, hey, let's be perfect kind of attitude that they got. So here goes. This is what Calvinism is. Calvinism is the idea that everybody's predestined at birth to go to heaven or hell. All right? You're either saved or you're damned. So how do you know that you're saved? Here's how. You ever know these people who like have everything perfect in their lives and nothing ever goes wrong for them? Yeah, under Calvinism, those people would be saved. All right? That's how God's letting them know that they're good. All right, everybody else, though, would be the damned. All right? So according to Calvinism and like what the Puritans take from this, you basically had to work extra freaking hard to go ahead and be amongst the saved. All right? You had to do very good works while you're alive. And then God would be like, all right, you cool. Come on in. So, that kind of explains a little bit of the rigid society now, doesn't it? Okay, now let's apply this. So, towards the end of the 1600s, the Puritans were losing a lot of church membership. I mean, you know, Salem's coming around the corner, right? But before that, though, a lot of the younger Puritan church members, well, people that were baptized as Puritans, weren't becoming full-fledged members. You know, restrictions and stuff. So, the Puritan church develops this halfway covenant, which basically is going to be like this kind of like partial membership, so that they can be partial members of the church and therefore baptize their kids as Puritans, and they might have a shot at becoming full-fledged members. I mean, and that's the thought process, so that the Puritans won't like just totally like dive off and go into extinction, right? So, okay, that's decline number one that the Puritans are experiencing. So, by the early 1700s, things don't really change for the Puritans. I mean, there's still a downward decline, right? And so, in the early 1700s, though, there's going to be this revival. It's going to be kind of like a new school thought for, like, Puritans. New school Puritans would be like Jonathan Edwards and George Whitefield. These guys are going to be more like, hey, you know, you don't need church to worship. It could be you and God. All right? So in a roundabout freaking way, this Great Awakening is actually nudging colonists to challenge authority. Because are they not challenging church authority by doing this? Huh. Right? Gets you thinking. So, people are going to take a more active role in church because of this. I mean, African Americans, Native Americans, even women are going to get involved in this too. Because really, it's the individual's, you know, connection with God, like we said. So, yeah, this is kind of a weird thing, but it's actually kind of like showing underlying feelings of freedom and liberty and, yeah, pretty much fight the power. So, your impact of the Great Awakening. You're going to have more your old school Puritans, which is the old lights, all right? They're not going to agree with the new school Puritans, which are the new lights. So you got a bit of a split. Plus, there's other sections of Protestantism, like I think Baptists are coming about around this time. Correct me if I'm wrong. I know there's several, but anyways, there's going to be more of an emphasis on religious toleration with this new crew, because there's different parts of Protestantism coming around. Plus, institutions of higher education are going to be developed as well. So places like Yale kind of started off as like church college, all right? Like that's the thing. So a lot of your Ivy Leagues are going to start up around this time. So like we said, it's going to empower women as well because they too feel included in this movement. Revivalism will now start to be a thing. Yeah, people are going to be in the middle of the woods and preaching. It comes back around again. Trust me. So, there's also this stress for egalitarianism, which is, yeah, freedom, liberty, that stuff, and it's going to influence political behaviors. So, I mean, yeah, like I said, it's telling people to kind of fight the power. So, alright, one last event I want to leave you guys with for the Middle Colonies and just our roundabout, like, hey, let's catch everything colonial history. It's going to be the trial of John Peter Zenger. Now, this happens in 1735. And here's a little bit of background about the case. Now, John Peter Zenger was a German printer. He worked for the New York Weekly Journal. And he's going to write this defamatory, article about the Governor William Cosby. So Cosby's going to say, hey, Zenger, you wrote a bunch of crap about me. I'm arresting you. So, here's the thing, though. Zenger didn't write a bunch of crap. He actually wrote the truth. But the prosecution's going to try to say, oh yeah, this guy acted maliciously and wickedly and blah, blah, blah. Zenger couldn't legally defend himself. So, that's what, the prosecution's trying to say. But you know, Zenger's lawyer, Andrew Hamilton, is going to be like, hey, you know, he published the truth, therefore it's not libel, right? So the verdict of the jury is this. They agree that, you know what? Zenger's not guilty. The jury basically practiced jury nullification, where they got rid of the law that was trying to prevent Zenger from, like, defending himself, right? And try to prevent Zenger from publishing articles like this. Because there was laws in the books that said, hey, you can't publish anything defamatory. So this, in turn, basically establishes our whole, like, freedom of the press thing. So later on, when we're coming up with the Bill of Rights and the Constitution, this is where we get that notion from this court case right here. So, alright guys, that was a long stream, but that's my catch-all, like, colonial history / Middle Colonies, so I hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to try to record another one right after this, which is basically on our long-term causes for the American Revolution. So stick around if you guys so choose, and I will catch you in the next one. Alright guys, bye.